Well, hi, Carolyn. Joel, how are you today?
Hello, Rachel. I'm good. And you?
Good. I'm very good. It's been a weird week, but this is episode two for us. So
Yay.
I think we were just chatting that today we're going to chat a little bit more to each other and about just kind of what's been going on in our writing careers. So, what's gone on for you
Good.
last week?
Well, I have now finally gotten uh, the all new interior formatting for all the novellas and novels. So that's all done. And I re uploaded the one of my historicals that's for book two in that series, from my Sinclair Sisters series.
Hmm.
Book two now is going to have a cover that's going to go with book one and three, and that's all uploaded and ready to go. And pretty exciting to have the formatting done. So now it's just the individual short stories in my short story collection,
Hmm.
which, yeah, I actually do need to do that because those things kind of sell.
They do?
They
This,
do.
as a group of short stories? Is that how you do it in a collection or?
Yes. Yes, I stuck them in a collection, and now that I have my new evergreening system in place that's granular down to the book level, so I know like which click a book came, and I can start looking through my data, and I've my custom programming for my URLs install is done, so I can now sort by like most recent clicks. I can see that the short story collection gets a lot of clicks. I'm surprised.
I am surprised too because I never want to read short stories, and I always hear that about other readers is they don't want to read short stories, but can't
Well,
be
there
true.
are
It,
there erotic short stories,
ah,
kind of, and so
well,
and
yes.
I kind of write on the hot side, so
Yeah.
I'm sort of not surprised because I think people go, ooh, oh, and she already wrote that hot, and she has erotic
Yeah.
stuff.
What does that
How
mean?
hot is that? So
Do you do your own formatting? I can't remember.
I used to, but I decided that it's not a good use of my time, even though
I
you know
know.
I set up a DocBooks install and could, do all that automatically. But the with every iteration of a new reader, then you have to go through and you have to test all your CSS and then rewrite your CSS files. And I've just outsourced it all to Paul Salvet of BBE Books
Hmm.
because he's fast and he's great. And we have the same mind because we were talking about JSON files. And it's like, Paul, here's my JSON file I was just working on.
Now, who does your uploading? Do you do all that, or do you
I
also?
do all the uploading.
Yeah.
And I also outsourced all my book descriptions because I'm not good at that. And I think that's very linked to the fact that I'm also like really wretched at writing a synopsis.
Well, that's a
And
totally different writing experience, you
it
know? That's
it
it.
is. And someday I will tell the story of when my agent and I finally decided that me in a synopsis, no. But
I would love to hear that story.
so I am not good at that, and so I went to someone who is good at it, and so now the last of my updated descriptions should be populated everywhere, and
That's
it's been
awesome.
like 18 months of work because I had to I redid all my covers, and I did redid some covers with like custom photo shoots because I had to set that up and then get all my new formatting, and just it would have been thousands of dollars all at once. And so I don't use credit cards at all,
I
so
don't
nothing
either.
gets paid for until the money's in the bank.
I'm with you, sister.
And
That's important. I think it
so
really is important.
it is. And I'm just fortunate that I'm have I'm not going to say fortunate. You know what? I work really hard and I've got backlist
I agree
and
with
it
you.
generates money, and I capitalize the business in line with the income coming in.
Yep.
So
On an upcoming podcast, we're gonna talk about money and the
yeah,
and that in writing, but it's because I have worked so hard and have written so hard and so fast and tried for so long that we are out of debt now. The only debt we have is the house. But before that, and I really like being transparent with things like shame and money and all of this stuff we don't talk about in our society enough. And we were $40,000
yeah.
in credit card debt at one point, and I was $50,000 in debt, student loan. And we just worked for
Wow.
years and years and years to pay all that off. And so just the fact that we will never be like that again.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. So,
So,
but yeah, it is fortunate, but it is also a result of direct damn hard work.
yeah. So, what have you been up to
This week I
the
have
last week
I
in Flirt
actually
Ruin?
had I have that awesome place to be in where some of my romances are contracted by Random House Australia. So they contract them, I write them, they edit them, they copy edit them, and then they only publish in Australia and New Zealand, and I have world rights for everything else. My agent kept
Okay.
that. So then I self publish them. And this week I was working on the page proofs for the second book in the Darling Songbird series that comes out in August. And also, the bigger thing was I was revising a book that comes out in the end of June. This might even be live by the time it's out. It's
This
called,
this June?
yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
end of June.
So
It
like
comes,
2 weeks.
yeah, in like 2 weeks, depending on when you're listening to this, listeners. But yeah, I had to do the revision on that and get it uploaded. You know, I ran right up into the Amazon pre-order. You must have your final revision in 10 days before the book goes live, and that to me is the hardest of all deadlines. I don't miss deadlines. I have asked for a couple of extensions on deadlines, but you know I've always met those too. But I've never missed a deadline. And the Amazon one, if listeners aren't familiar, if you do a pre-order on Amazon, you put a date for it to be released, and you must upload your final version 10 days before the book goes live, or you lose your pre-order uh, availability at Amazon for a year. So where you can do a sob story to your editor, you can't do a sob story to Amazon. So that's what I was working on all week, and I uploaded
No.
that yesterday, and that's a nice book that's done and off of my desk. So it was a really good, very hard-working week.
Yeah, I always calendar my when if I do an Amazon pre-order, I calendar that drop dead date like 24 hours before
I
their
usually
actual.
do that, and this time I just
Yeah.
didn't have the time. And I actually, that morning, I got an email that I've never seen before, which is, we're worried about you. Your final draft is not in. I'm like, oh, crap. You're right. I know. I'm working on it.
Okay, well, high five.
High
You
five.
got it done
Thanks.
because holy cow.
That was too close. That was too
I
close for
know
comfort.
those are I'm a big believer in uh, not having stress in my life unless I can help it. And that Amazon deadline, just like, holy cow.
Well, the other thing is that I'm sure you do the
There's
same
something
thing. Like,
nasty about
I
it.
already have a version up there that is pretty clean, and this is the final revision. So if for some reason I got hit by a truck and it went out, people would read it and they go, "Oh, there's some typos in here." But so it's there. It's not like they would get 3 chapters and then nothing. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
still too nerve-wracking. Well,
Okay.
shall we move into the topic of the day?
Yes.
Right. We decided that we're going to talk about how self-publishing has changed the direction of our careers. Is that right, Carolyn?
Yes.
Okay. You want to take it away? I want to know how your publishing life has changed now. How has
Okay.
it directly affected you in your writing life and maybe in your personal life?
Yeah. Um, well, I live in Northern California, so I'm gonna start this out in a weird way. But I live in California, where housing is really expensive. Like the median house price has always been like in the $500,000 to $600,000 range, and that's
Mm-hmm.
for like a fixer upper.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of thought I would never in my whole life be able to afford a house because I have just one income. Um, and a kid that I have to send to college and am sending to college. So keep that in the back of your mind. So I've been traditionally published since like 1987, with this kind of gap between book 2 and 3, which might be the subject of another episode at some point. And I think the most I ever made traditionally publishing in one year was maybe $40,000. I don't think it
Mm-hmm.
was 40. It was more like 20 because that was the year that with my new agent with Kristen, she sold like 4 books for me like within 6 weeks of me signing with
Good
her.
job.
Yeah, she was she's just amazing. Um, And so that was, the most I had ever made. And most years it was just like, I'm trying to read royalty statements, and for the longest time it was like you would look at a royalty statement and go, it might as well, be in cuneiform for all the sense that it makes.
Mm-hmm.
um, so I kind of thought, I don't know, I'll just be writing slowly, and you keep plugging away. And then self-publishing kind of started, and um, I had a couple of writer friends who were doing extremely well, and then um, a, I had 4 books with Dorchester Publishing, which was going
Ouch.
under, or
Yeah.
not. I wouldn't say going under because that's ultimately not what happened. They ended up being bought. Well, they never went into bankruptcy, and Amazon ended up buying the backlist, which probably kept them out of there. But I got Kristen, even though she never represented any of those books, was instrumental in me getting my rights back, like
That's
in
great.
late 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, what the heck? Self-publishing, and so like in early 2007 or 2011, I got out, the books. Those reverted backlist titles, and I did them, kind of over 6 months. I got them out, but literally like that. So that was in February. And then I was at RWA in 2011, and literally I'm in my hotel room and I'm looking at an Amazon deposit of $16,000. And it was, oh, literally, I cried. I sat
I
there
would. Yeah.
crying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and that was just the deposit from Amazon. It was like the Barnes and Noble one was almost as much. And iBooks, and Google Play were not a thing then. That was really only the 2 places, like Smashwords, maybe. And it was just like, literally, it was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And by the end of the year, I have like this money in the bank, and I'm going, oh my God, I have a down payment, I think. So I walked into my bank and I said, what do I have to do to get a mortgage? And I thought, well, they're going to say, like, here's this list of things you need to do, and then like go do it. And they said, apply. And, and, and like, then like within like 9 months, I was a homeowner.
That's fantastic. I love that.
And oh my gosh, it was just so amazing. And it was like, my writing life changed. And so, this historical that people had been writing to me about for 10 years, every year for 10 years, people were saying, when's the next book coming out in this series? And I was like, well, it just, what I couldn't say to any of them was that I had the worst agent at the time. She basically lied to me about the meaning of clauses, and Dorchester ended up owning the character to the series, so that even if I had wanted to
The
take it out,
worst.
I couldn't have.
Right.
And it was just, sorry, there's nothing I can do with this. And
Just to be clear, that was not Kristen Nelson, her current
no, it was
agent.
not Kristen Nelson. It was someone else who has since passed away, actually.
Oh.
And not my first agent, who also passed away. But uh,
I
boy, you got to have the right agent.
well, I like them alive. Yes.
It is better. But I knew, like, for that second book, when I was still with that agent, and I kept saying, okay, this first book, this is doing pretty well, because it was on like that was back in the Walden Book days, and it's like, it's on some Walden Books bestsellers, and I was hearing from people, it's like, oh my, I had emails like at midnight the day that book released, going, oh my God, I love that book,
Oh,
and
I
that was
love those
Flirt Ruin.
emails. Yeah.
Um, and so yeah. And I kept saying, maybe we should go back to them about for another contract, because I had a 1 book contract. Um, because it seems pretty hot now. Now would be a good time. And it's like, all she could do was talk about her upcoming vacation to Ireland. And I kept saying, okay. And then she never did anything. And so I finally, like 6 months later, emailed my editor and said, hey, I'm working on this other book. What do you think? And she said, oh, well, send me the first, I don't know, half the books. And I had gotten that far. And so I sent her the first half of the book, and she goes, oh, yeah, we'll buy this. So I don't know what the heck that agent did, because nothing.
You
All
did
she
that.
did, yeah. She had zero, nothing. So, and then so after that book, I just like sent her the little letter that said, "We're done,"
Yeah.
and I went on to a different agent. Still not Kristen. That was still in my fantastic future. So So then I started getting other backlists back after I, got those titles back. And it was like, I'm looking at this going, holy cow, all these books that made me zero money before are suddenly making me money. And, my first book, if it weren't for Kristen, I would, Satan Martin Express was just ignoring me. That my first book with them, I would just, if she hadn't been on my side, like for books she never represented, she's the reason I got those books back.
That's
Because
great.
she was in there going, hey, what's wrong with you guys?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now books that, weren't making me any money make me a little bit of money. Some of them just a little bit of money, every month. And some of them a lot of money, every month. I wouldn't say I'm rolling in cash yet because I have this weird, that would be like maybe another
Oh,
series.
I
Let's
want
talk,
to I want to talk about
series.
rolling in cash today later on, so I'm going to have some
Okay.
questions for you. But yeah,
Okay.
go on.
So, yeah. And now, I have full control over what I want to write and when I'm going to write it and over what my covers look like. And like one of the big, benefits of traditional publishing is supposedly great covers, but I've sat with people kind of going, yeah, I can't change that cover. Sorry. I can't brand it to me. Um, so, I mean, there's lots of great things about traditional publishing, but I was like, in that sort of like lower mid list level,
Mm-hmm.
not quite breaking out. Um, so very little book support, really. And I totally understand their business decision behind that, but I make more money now that I'm in control of my career.
Right. Right.
Significantly more money.
Yeah.
Like last year, even though I'm like one of the sort of not gangbusters yet, I'm positioning myself to go there. But like last year, I made almost as much in self-publishing as I did in the day job because I have a very highly paid, relatively
That's
highly paid
fantastic. Yeah.
day job. So I'm
Good.
finally looking at the plan is not like someday quitting the day job, but like the
When?
for like making that happen and like everything is finally set up now, like all the covers are done, series are set up and going forward. I'm at the next thing to concentrate on is email list stuff. And so yeah, my life is like my publishing life is so much better. So much better.
I love hearing that. That is fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
let me tell you a little bit about how self-publishing changed me. And I want to make it clear in this podcast that we are not. I don't think we are, but Carolyn and I can argue about this if we want to. But we're not all about you need to self-publish. You have to traditionally publish either or. I'm firmly hybrid right now. Carolyn is all self, but I don't mean to slag on traditional publishing at all. But self-publishing is what got me to be able to quit my day job. Um, I was finally making. I know. I was finally making enough to replace, basically, like I talked about a little bit about my debt that was really huge, and basically what I've used all of my writing money for in the last 6-7 years is to pay off that debt. I worked a full-time job, well paid, in the fire department, fire industry, but all my book money would go to paying off that debt. So I did that. Then I was looking at replacing my income at the fire department with writing income. Self-publishing allowed me to do that. 2 years ago, I made a lot more in self-publishing than I did in traditional. Last year, I sold a few contracts and I made more in self-publishing, and I was actually releasing less. I don't think I self-published anything last year. It was just
Wait,
all.
you made more traditionally
I made more
publishing last
traditionally
year
publishing. Yeah,
because of because of front-loaded advances, correct?
exactly. Yes,
Okay.
front-loaded advances. And so that's where that cash flow came from. And I didn't release anything self-published at all. It was just a year of me writing to traditional. So, so this year, and I right now, self-publishing is bringing me between $3,000 a month and on like a BookBub month more, like $10,000-$15,000. But it's usually right around $3,000, which is what I needed to bring into our household at the very base level. That's making the mortgage. That's contributing to our savings. That's saving up for a rainy day for the car breaking down. All of our cars are paid off, that kind of thing. So that was really the bare minimum. I need to make more like 4 or 5 on a steady basis, but that's okay because I was willing to make that jump into full-time self-employment, and I'm going to be making more money doing all these other things. I think I have 4 books coming out this year, maybe more. Some
all sources, traditional and self?
Yes, both. I have 2 traditional and 2 self. So I really like that, and I'm already making a bunch more money already this
Question?
year. Yes.
So when you say 2 traditional and 2 self, are you counting your self-published versions of your traditional books, or is that actually 6 things?
Oh, no. It's not 6. It's 1 mainstream women's fiction from Penguin. 2 of the Darling Songbirds, which are Random House Australia, but then self-published by me, but in the rest of the world. And then a book called On the Market, which is the one that comes out in June. That's fully self-published all over the world. So yeah, that's a total of 4, but there will be at least 1 or 2 more by the end of the year. So I'm making that money. It's great. It's fantastic. It's changed my life. And guess what? My wife lost her job this week. The one thing that needed to happen if I quit this job is just like, well, she's in the tech industry in the city. She was the one for a long time. I've been the one bringing in all the money because I have 2 jobs. She was the one bringing in the bacon, and then the bacon went away. So that was on Monday. I guess it's just been a crappy week for a lot of people. And that was on Monday, and basically all night Tuesday I stayed up researching things online and talking with friends in mastermind groups, and I'm in a bunch of different loops with different really successful people. And okay, so this is what I want to run past you. I'm going to continue doing all the stuff that I need to do. I just sold another book to Random House Australia for the 3rd in the series, and so I have 16 weeks to write that book, but I only need 8 because I can write a book in about 5 to 6 weeks and then edit it. So I need 2 months to write a book. So I have 16 weeks. That means I have 8 weeks free. This is what I'm considering doing, and it's interesting that we'll talk about it on the air. And I'm not really considering it. I guess this is what I am doing, unless you tell me, for the love of God, Rachel, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm going to start a new pen name because I don't want to marry these 2 things, and we'll talk about that. But I want to write serial erotic romance with cliffhangers. So, because what friends are saying is that as much as readers like to talk about how much they hate a cliffhanger, they buy the next book. So I've got the idea. The entire book, it'll be broken into 4 parts. The entire book will be about 130,000 words, broken out into 25,000 for the first book, end on a cliffhanger, and 35,000 for the next 3 books with an overarching plot. But each book it won't stand alone, but it'll have a satisfying emotional arc within it. And then I'm going to put out all 4 of those books plus the box set, just wham, whap, and see what happens. What are your initial thoughts on that, Carol?
My initial thoughts on that are, I hate serials. I hate that cliffhanger. There, in fact, are authors that it's like because it feels to me like they just chopped off the book so that I would in fact buy the next one. And so authors that I really adore or really enjoyed that, first book, it was like, fuck you. No. But that's just me, and I understand that there are lots of people who feel differently, and they go on to buy additional books. So my feeling is that the solution. So here's what I think. I think you never want the reader to feel like they've been taken advantage of.
Exactly.
And so you can end on a cliffhanger as long as you've given them something to go, okay, I feel I've been satisfied up to the almost end. And here's this cliffhanger that's not like, that doesn't feel like I'm ending mid-sentence.
Exactly. And that's why I'm going to structure them. I feel like I'm a good enough writer to structure with that completely in mind. So there's an entire emotional and erotic satisfaction within that first chapter,
Yeah.
there's an arc, and then there's a, oh my God, but, and then a bigger one and a bigger one leading up to the very, very happily ever after. And I'm
Yeah.
taking that really seriously. Also, a friend of mine who's making a lot of money on it is very, very, very clear in basically every line of every description of the book. This is a 4-part series. This is the second of the 4 parts. You must have read the first one. This will end in a cliffhanger. And there are just people who love cliffhangers. And she's making, the
Yeah.
friends that I have that are doing this are making $20,000 to $30,000 a month on those serial cliffhangers. So
Yeah.
I want to give it a damn try. And
I think
I'm
you
a good
need to.
writer, and I think it would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think a few things. Um, Everyone's career is a little bit different.
mhm,
So, and sometimes that's a function of um, how well they position themselves, and it's a function of how well they understand the market and their readers, or the market they think or believe they're getting into.
mhm.
And then how smartly they put themselves out there, like how good are your covers and how good's that back cover copy. So all those things. And so it's very dangerous to say, well, everybody says they hate cereal, so never do that, because you don't know how it's going to work for you until you've tried it.
Mhm.
So as long as you've got the budget for it and you want to do it and you have a strategy for it, the only way you're going to know
Exactly.
is if you do it.
And
And
my wife is getting paid out over the next 12 weeks. And like I said, I've got these 8 free weeks in which I can do
yeah,
that. So I don't know if I'm going to have the time and the money to give this a shot.
yeah,
And I think it'll be really interesting to kind of keep you apprised of it and see where, and you know, it's entirely possible that in 4 months, you know, after it's been out a couple months, I'll be like, well, I made 4 sales, you know, and they're mad. And they hate me. So, but I really am trying to. There's this. We'll put it in the show notes. I found that it's kind of a hard place to get in Amazon, but it's this backdoor way to look at the erotica author rankings, which is.
Wait, hold on. I have to do this backdoor.
I actually heard myself say it. I thought, okay, Carolyn's gonna. So backdoor erotica. That's what we're talking about, folks. Okay, if you watch this on the YouTube, I've actually gone the same shade of purple as my hair, which is kind of hard to do. Um, but okay, so you can sort Amazon's author rankings. You can break it out to the category level, to the genre that they write in, which is actually hard to do. They've made it difficult, but I got there sideways, and we'll put in the link. And so you can look at all the erotica authors listed on ranking, you know, and it changes hour by hour, but it's a lot less volatile than the bestseller. You know, the best-selling erotica books, they're easy to find, and they change every day wildly due to book bubs, due to any other blasts. But these authors, when you look at these erotica authors, I don't do anything small. I like to do things big. So when I look at these erotica authors that I've never heard of, but when I look at their books, they have incredible ratings, and they've got 4,000 reviews. 4,000 reviews for every book. I'm like, that's where I want to aim. You know, I might not get there, but that's where I'm going to launch myself. And it was a really interesting exercise when I was staying awake all night for a couple of nights, reading all their blurbs, looking at their cover copy, seeing what their tropes were, what points they were hitting. I downloaded a bunch of them and speed read them to see what the books that were loved did at the turns and what the books that were hated did at the turns. So it's been
And
really
how
fun.
old were those books?
Most of them are pretty newish. There's a few really big names. You know, Maya Banks is on there, Sylvia Day, and they've been out for a while. And I would say that all those writers on that list have been writing for at least three, 1 to 3 years, if not more. But then there were a couple just brand new people that you could see that they had shot themselves the right direction and they were hitting what readers wanted.
Right.
So it was fascinating to look at that. So we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
So you have your covers ready?
I don't have my
Have you
covers
started
ready,
that?
but I do have my cover artist, and I use Kim Killian, who I really like. She hits all the notes for me. So who does yours? You have somebody.
Yes. Right now I'm using Demonza,
Yeah, that's right.
and they are doing a great job for me because I have a very specific cover style
Yeah.
that I'm using for the 2 genres that I write in. So far, it's been super effective. Really pulls things together visually, so it's a little bit it's not quite the same as what most other authors are doing with their covers, mainly because I feel that because romance sells so much in the digital space, it's really important that your books stand out in thumbnail.
Yes.
And sometimes when you have a really busy, beautiful background, it can make that thumbnail look a little muddy. Um,
I had this book come out traditionally from Penguin 3 years ago. It's called Pack Up the Moon, and it's one of the most gorgeous books that I've ever seen. It's this dark black cover with a tree with lights hanging in it and a table underneath, and it's nighttime. And everyone gasps when they see it. And when I would look at it on the Barnes and Noble table, on the co-op table, I couldn't find it, even though I knew it was one of the 16 books in front of me. And I was in the Penguin office, and it was
wow.
it was up in their bookcase in the front because it had just come out. And my editor, my agent, and I couldn't find it on that wall because it was like a black hole of suckingness of this cover, even though it was really the most gorgeous cover ever. It didn't pop anywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that kind of sucked.
You know, I was at a bookstore once with a friend of mine who writes Navy SEAL romance, and I kind of like when I held her cover in my hand, I thought, well, you know, it's an okay cover. It does its job. And it was actually an Amazon designed cover. And but then it was against the back wall, like in the bookshelf face out, and that cover popped like you wouldn't believe.
That's
It's like
amazing.
that's the only place. It was like that kind of visual test I think is really
Yes.
important with covers
Hmm.
because that's what you want. You want the eye to linger on that cover so that someone is going to go, "Ooh, what's that?" Click. And there they are.
We're all
And then
susceptible to that, all of us. You
absolutely,
know.
absolutely. You need a clickbaity cover
Exactly.
that doesn't have too much nudity because that's a problem
Yes.
for Amazon and for Facebook ads.
Which is why I'm going
So
to aim towards erotic romance rather than straight up erotica. Um, it's gonna be plot heavy and character heavy, but with just a lot of. And I'm like you. I already write hot, so if this
yeah.
gets out, if I reveal my pen name, I think readers will like it. I'm still not sure if I'm going to reveal my pen name, so that'll be an ongoing conversation
Okay.
that I can have with you.
Well, that sounds like a pretty exciting project.
I know.
I like that idea.
I like going balls to the wall. I really,
Yeah.
really do. So I'm gonna start. I'm gonna spend the weekend plotting because I need a little bit of. I really need to know what my characters are gonna do and who they are, and then I'm just gonna start on Monday because my calendar right now is clear. And oh, and funny, I did we talk about this last week? You and I both use Dragon Dictate, and I've never written erotica with Dragon Dictate, so I am picturing the paint peeling off of my walls in my office.
Well, I just know. Well, see, well, I'll put it this way: I have never successfully gotten Dragon to actually use the word fuck.
Damn it.
It's always
Damn it.
take. It's always something. It's like, really, really.
And we have to be able to train the dragon, right? Maybe this is something we could contact customer support and say, look, we are writers of hot stuff. They need to be able to say fuck and pussy and cock and all of those words. By the way, listeners, we like to use all of the words. So welcome to the show. I think that's a good question.
My issue though is, you know, I like Dragon. It is slightly better most of the time than the Mac dictation, although sometimes it's pretty close.
I agree.
But I don't write in Word, and I find that in the program that I do write in, which runs, and I have a Windows 10 install that I run in parallels on the iMac and the PC. It just I can't. Maybe this happens to you because what I find with Dragon is that probably maybe 2 or 3 times over the course of 2 or 3 hours of dictating or whatever is that I have to shut down Dragon and start over because it just oh my god, it just goes crazy.
Let me give you the tip and
okay.
Because I was having that problem because I kept trying to use it in both Word and Scrivener, and I really think that at this point I use Mac. I think that at this point Dragon Dictate is really only meant to be used within text edit. That's what it wants to be in. So, and I really am not a fan of text edit. It's just it's a very, very plain based
Yeah.
thing. But once you, if you try it for me and let me know what you think. If you use Dragon within text edit, it screams along. It's just happy the whole time.
Huh.
It does not freak out. And then you just copy and paste into your place of
Well,
choice.
that would be if I were doing straight dictating.
Yeah.
But I do.
Oh yeah, you work
I
within
was
your
showing
document.
yeah. Mainly because I use it to make revisions go a lot faster.
I love that idea.
Well, I showed you my.
Can you explain it to the
page.
listeners?
Sure. So what I do is, and I found this out the hard way by accidentally somehow managing to lose under a very tight deadline many hours of revisions. I thought I was gonna, oh my God, but I still have my paper copy because I do paper revisions always because it looks different on paper and anyway, it works very well for me. But sometimes it's nothing but a sea of ink, over the front and the back of the page. But I find that my revisions go really fast when I can just dictate in those massive blocks of revisions. Not so much for like changing punctuation or a few things, but when I have like I'm replacing or adding in like big blocks of text, it goes super fast. I just click and then start dictating.
So
but what I find happened it saved me with that one deadline because that would have been really unhappy. And I think that was the book. It's so funny. That was the book where literally when we had to get it, because it was for a novella for an anthology, where I had to get it to whatever the deadline was with the other authors. And I was up until like 2 a.m. on a day when I had to get up at like 6, just getting the last of that in, partly because of this. But that book is a finalist in the National Reader's Choice Award.
That's awesome.
For this year, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Really cool. What book is that?
Seduction in Winter? Is it a Seduction in Winter? The last. Either that or an unsuitable. I don't think it's an unsuitable. Oh God. Brandon. Enough coffee and unsuitable. A Seduction in Winter.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And is that one chosen? When is that one chosen or announced the winner?
I believe at RWA.
I thought so too. Yeah.
The announcement will be at RWA. So Thursday, July 15th or 14th or something like that. I don't have my schedule open.
Everything crossed for you.
Thanks.
Everything crossed.
Wow, it's great just to be a finalist.
Exactly.
That's just awesome.
That's so cool.
So,
thanks, Dragon Dictate, for revision help.
But it does make those voice revisions go a lot faster, and I think it actually helps. I want to, I don't usually have problems with carpal tunnel or anything like that unless I do massive amounts of typing, and so I want to do as much dictating as I can in between that so that my hands are fine for when I do have to do lots of typing.
That's exactly why I'm doing it. I'm trying to, we want longevity in these careers, and I can definitely type very, very fast, and I can type for 6 hours at a time, and then then I can't use my wrists. And I'm also a knitter. Yeah. I need to be able to knit. I'm a crafter. I need to be able to sew.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, I think that this has been delightful talking to you.
Yes.
And
yes.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add?
Wait, did you get to answer? You got to answer all the questions, right? We were talking about.
Oh, yes. I'll to clarify how self-publishing has changed my life is that it did allow me to take a giant leap, and I am not regretting that giant leap because I think in life we need to take enormous, scary leaps. Although this particular week, I am absolutely terrified. The last time my wife was unemployed, it was in 2000. What was it, 9? Is that when the tech sector tanked in San Francisco?
2008.
8 and 9. Yeah, and she was unemployed for a couple of years, just off and on doing, temp work. There was just nobody hiring. And right now she has more skills, and the tech sector is doing great, and she'll get a job. But I automatically flash back to that very difficult time financially for us. So I'm just going to throw a bunch of erotic spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks.
Except for it's not really spaghetti, right? It's very finely crafted spaghetti that you hope to stick.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. So next week I
Artisanal.
will. It's artisanal. It's artisanal flour and water, and I'm actually gluten free, so that won't work for anybody. Well, I hope that you have a magnificent writing week. Any plans
Thank
coming
you.
up?
Well, my son's home for college, so he's around. Uh,
And newly licensed.
Newly licensed, he finally, just after all these years of having no interest in driving, finally got his driver's license.
Oh man,
So,
kids today. I had my driver's license on my 16th birthday.
oh, me too.
On
Me
the
too.
day. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what else? And I just have to I have some more revisions to get on the book that should be released soon. As
Yay.
soon as I have those revisions in, it'll go off to a trusted reader
Yeah.
for an initial read, and then it comes back to me with well, I guess if it's really terrible, she'll tell me, and I'll know sooner rather than later. Otherwise, I'll have a set of revisions, and then that'll go off to my editor
Great.
after that. So it's pretty close
Good.
to being out there. And then I write Miss Fiona Harper's Night of Passion. Did I tell you about
No, tell
that?
me
Was
about
like
it.
so that was this research driven story for the book I'm writing now is historical, and I had to research gaming how, and I came across this interesting information about racing maggots, and I just was joking on Twitter about that, and had kind of said that would just make the funnest story, and and then I just thought, I've got this cover art that I'm not going to use for the upcoming book because I'm doing the custom shoot, which is fantastic covers. Oh my God, they're going to be so awesome.
Yes,
They are so awesome,
I've
actually.
seen some on Twitter and they are pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I'm just going to write this kind of short novella-ish story after that, and then I start a new series.
Awesome. That sounds
So,
great.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope your week goes very well, and we will talk again next week.
Alrighty.
Okay. Thanks, Carolyn.
Bye.